This story comes to us from Alex Miller, who worked for the American Railway. He lived with his mother Martha and his sister Emily. At the time, he was stationed in Chicago, but then he received a transfer to a smaller town in Illinois. As you probably know, railway employees often get provided with housing in railway colonies. Alex was allocated a quarter, but this particular one had been vacant for quite some time. 8 to 10 years, they said. When he was assigned the quarter, they did mention it had been empty for a good decade. He didn't think much of it, figured if no one had come along in all that time, well, so be it. He wasn't one to dwell on such things. Besides, he had a strong belief in their family deity, a firm conviction that no matter what, they would always be protected. He even kept a small idol of the deity with him at all times. So, the transfer happened, and they moved into the quarter in Illinois. They cleaned the place up, got their belongings sorted, and set up a little shrine for their deity's idol. Now the quarter had a rather large backyard, relatively speaking. And in that backyard stood a massive banyan tree. There wasn't any boundary wall at the back. It was open. The quarter ended, and right there stood this enormous, ancient banyan tree. You could just tell by its shape and size that it had been there for ages. Anyway, one day, Alex's mother and sister were tidying up the backyard. They were gathering up all the dry, fallen branches. You know how it is. Some folks just have a knack for keeping things spick and span. It's their way, and they enjoy it. So, the two of them were out there, clearing away the branches and generally making the backyard look presentable. Emily, Alex's sister, reached a spot near the banyan tree and was picking up some wood. That's when she saw it. There was a piece of wood standing upright and tied to... Oh, it was a red cloth. She reached out, grabbed the wood, pulled it out of the ground, and tossed it aside. And the moment she did that, she just froze. She stood there, stock still, for a good while. Her mother, Martha, having finished gathering the other branches, looked over and saw Emily standing there, her head tilted, staring up at the banyan tree. Martha found it rather odd. She went over to her and asked, "Emily, love, what's wrong?" As soon as Martha spoke, Emily seemed to snap out of it. She turned around silently and walked straight back into the house without saying a word. From that day onwards, Emily was different. The kitchen window offered a clear view of the banyan tree, and Emily would often go into the kitchen and just stand there, staring at the tree for hours on end, without so much as a blink. Just a constant, unwavering gaze. She stopped talking to everyone in the house, practically. She became withdrawn, spending most of her time alone. Sometimes during the day, she'd sit in a corner of her room and cry, and then, just as suddenly, she'd burst into laughter. Her mother and brother were beside themselves with worry. What on earth had happened to her since they moved here? Gradually, things got worse. She'd go into the kitchen and start throwing the pots and pans around, making a terrible racket. She'd let her hair down and just scream. On top of that, she started scratching things onto the walls with her fingernails, so much so that her nails began to break off at the quick. She'd sit there and pull out her own hair, and she started scratching at her own body. She was hurting herself. Seeing this, Alex and Martha decided they had to keep Emily confined to the house. They even started using small chains, the kind you might use for a bicycle lock, to restrain her. It's not as if they hadn't tried to get help. They'd taken her to doctors, to priests, to anyone they thought might be able to help. But nothing seemed to make a difference. That's when they made the difficult decision to restrain her, fearing she might harm herself further. During the day, her intensity would lessen, but after 11 o'clock at night, she'd become incredibly violent. They could hear the chains rattling all through the house as she thrashed about, screaming in anger. They knew something was seriously wrong, but they just couldn't find a solution. One night, like any other, or so they thought. Well, it was just another day that turned into night. She was restrained, as usual. You can imagine. She was probably quite angry about being confined. I mean, wouldn't you be? Anyway, her mother woke up in the middle of the night and noticed it was unusually quiet. She figured Emily must be asleep, but when she went to check on her, despite being chained, Emily wasn't in the house. The chains were lying on the floor. Somehow she'd managed to break free and get out. They searched the entire house, every room, but she was nowhere to be found. Then they went out into the backyard, and there, under the banyan tree, sat Emily, smoking a cigarette. It was around 2 a.m. Imagine seeing a member of your family sitting under a banyan tree in the dead of night, hair disheveled, puffing away on a cigarette. Alex and Martha were understandably terrified. They rushed over to her and said, "Emily, what are you doing here? Come back inside." As soon as they spoke, Emily looked up at them. Her eyes were bloodshot red with anger. She looked at them and said in a deep, guttural voice, "This isn't Emily anymore." Her voice sent a chill right through them. "Who said that? Emily, what are you saying?" The voice replied, "Emily stays here. She's not going anywhere. You two just go away. Leave her be." Now, a brother isn't going to abandon his sister, and a mother isn't going to leave her child. They tried to grab her, but her strength was immense. They couldn't pull her away. Her mother started crying, pleading, "Emily, my child, what's happened to you? What's wrong?" After several long minutes, Emily's body suddenly went limp. She'd fainted. They quickly picked her up and carried her back into the house. From that point on, they kept Emily restrained at all times, terrified she'd wander off again. Now, some of you might be wondering where she got the cigarette from. Well, she was still in her regular clothes, and there were times before this all got so intense when they would let her roam around the house during the day. Perhaps she'd managed to sneak out then and get hold of one. We can only speculate, but the point is, she was now constantly restrained, and her mother kept a close eye on her day and night to prevent any further incidents. 2 or 3 days after this incident, Emily vanished again in the middle of the night. They searched the entire house, the front yard, the backyard, the whole neighborhood. They looked everywhere, but Emily was nowhere to be found. 2 whole days passed, and there was still no sign of her. They even reported her missing to the police, but they had no luck finding her either. Alex, however, had unwavering faith in their family deity. That night, as he slept, he had a dream. In his dream, their deity appeared to him and said, 15 miles from here, there's a cemetery. Emily is there. Go and bring her back to my shrine as quickly as you can, or that evil spirit will not let her go, and it will kill her. There's no time to lose. Hurry." Alex woke up immediately, took his mother, and just as the deity had instructed, they went straight to the cemetery. There was a guard sitting near the entrance. Alex asked him if he'd seen a young woman. The guard replied, "Yes, last night a girl came here. I told her it wasn't safe for a young woman to be in a cemetery at night, and she got angry. She just glared at me and told me to mind my own business and leave her alone. I was quite scared, so I just ran off. She went straight inside. I don't know where she went after that. I tried to look for her, but I couldn't find her. Who are you?" Alex explained that she was his sister and that they believed something was wrong with her. The guard seemed to understand and let them go inside. They searched the cemetery and found Emily sitting near a grave crying. Alex was heartbroken to see her like that. He went over to her, gently picked her up, and tried to reassure her. He didn't force her, just spoke to her calmly, trying to persuade her to come home. She kept repeating, "Don't separate me from Sarah. Don't separate me from Sarah." Alex told her she could come back to visit, but she hadn't eaten or drunk anything for 2 days and needed to come home so she wouldn't get ill. He managed to convince her, and they took her back home. The very next day, they set off for their ancestral village in Arizona for the ritual involving their deity. When they arrived, the deity manifested through a local person. Emily was brought before them, and the deity, speaking through the person, asked her angrily, "Who are you, and what are you doing in this girl's body?" The entity didn't reply, but just started laughing, a loud, unsettling laugh coming from Emily's mouth. It was a boy's voice. Seeing this, the deity became enraged. They slapped Emily's face a couple of times and asked again, "Tell me, who are you, and what are you doing in this child's body?" Finally, the entity spoke. "My name is Andrew," it said, "and I was in love with a girl named Sarah, but our religions were different and her family didn't approve. They threatened to kill me if I didn't stay away from her. I couldn't stay away. Eventually they did kill me and buried me under that banyan tree. The day this girl removed the red cloth from my grave, that's when I entered her body. I later found out that Sarah also took her own life, and that her grave is in this very cemetery." The person through whom the deity was speaking said, "What happened to you was terrible, but why are you tormenting this girl? Leave her body." The entity replied, "No, I won't leave. I'm going to bring Sarah into her body too, and then we'll always be together. No one will ever separate us again." Everyone was shocked by this. The entity continued, "I went to the cemetery to bring Sarah back with me, but I couldn't find her. Perhaps she's moved on from this world. Perhaps she's found peace." The deity figure said, "What you want can't happen. Sarah has likely moved on. You can't bring her back into this body. Tell me, how will you leave this girl's body? You have no purpose left here. Don't torment this child any longer. Just leave her." The entity then said, "All right, perform the proper funeral rites for me, and then I will be free, and I will leave her body." The deity agreed, and as soon as they did, Emily fainted again. They tied a thread around her wrists and told her that from this day forward she would be all right. After this, they returned to the banyan tree, had the area dug up, collected whatever remains were there, and performed the proper funeral rites for Andrew. From that day onwards, Emily never experienced anything like that again. She didn't feel any strange presence or exhibit any unusual behavior. She went back to living a normal life. So, that was the incident that happened with Alex and his family. The question here is, what exactly happened? There seem to be two key points: removing the red cloth and the fulfillment of the entity's last wish. He wanted to be with Sarah, but when he couldn't find her, his purpose for staying in this world vanished. He asked for his own liberation, and just after that process, the haunting stopped. What do you all make of this? What was that in-between period all about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. We'll catch you in the next story. Until then, keep loving and keep it spooky.